Welcome back to the Querida Mari podcast. I am Maria. If this is your first time listening to me, thank you and welcome. If you're watching me via YouTube, welcome to this channel. Today, I want to talk to you about how our bodies remember trauma. I think it was like 2 weeks ago we talked about the responses of the hippocampus, the amygdala, and our central nervous system. I don't want to go too into detail because this is not a class. There's really no need for you to know the names of and parts of the brain. There are some parts that is helpful to learn because you're going to hear it, especially if you go to therapy. Your therapist might mention the limbic system depending on what you go to therapy for. So what is trauma, right? Trauma is an event. There's a dangerous event or even a perceived danger. So the body doesn't know the difference. The body doesn't know if it's actually experiencing the trauma right now at this moment, or if it experienced it years ago, or if it's going to experience it again. So one of the things that I'm going to talk with you about today is triggers. And if you want to grab a pen and paper and jot down some notes as I speak, or if you want to just get to know yourself. One of the best parts of healing is knowing why you are responding the way that you are responding to the situation that you are being presented with. And so it creates more compassion and it creates more space for you to heal, because there's always this rush, right? There's rush to heal, rush to do everything. We rush everything, even healing. And this is something that we can't control. We can't control how we heal, how long it takes, and all these things. From a therapist standpoint, I am in one of the lucky few. I think because I am a therapist and I know what the body does, I can understand it, but it doesn't make it any easier. You know what I mean? I still have to go through the bullshit and the mud that we all have to go through because I have a body just like you. So one of the things too that I try to is to make these videos really short and sweet, and these podcasts short, but for some reason it's just more information and more information comes out. So the danger, trauma is danger or perceived danger that causes an overstimulation of your central nervous system, specifically the limbic system. And overstimulation causes your prefrontal cortex, which is right here, to shut down, making it very difficult for people to learn while they're in a state of trauma. Now, here's the thing. There could be a child that can be traumatized at home, actually being traumatized at home, whether they're witnessing sexual abuse, or they're witnessing parents fighting, or outside of the home, they're they can hear gunshots or whatever, wherever you are. Or on the other end, you can have a child that goes home and parents aren't there. They might be there physically, but they're not there, emotionally. They may have parents that says, here's $25, go get yourself something, just to get rid of them. That is not a physical trauma, but that is an emotional trauma. So trauma comes dressed up in many different outfits, in many different scenarios as well, and socioeconomics. Trauma does not say, hey, I'm not going to go there because you have $10 million. It doesn't do that. You have a body, you're experiencing trauma. You live on earth, there's chances are you're going to be experiencing some sort of trauma. So add ADD. Let's say you have a child that has ADD and ADHD. That will make it even harder for the child to learn, because not only does the child already has a challenge, attention deficit, bring in trauma into the mix, or perceived trauma that might be happening, that might happen in the future, increases anxiety, and the ADD becomes even worse. So they can also the child can also be, they can seem to not be interested, but in the reality of things, it's just that the child is just trying to survive. The body is in survival mode 24/7, just like a soldier is at war. So even though the soldier may be not actively combat, the fact that they're over there away from the family, things that could potentially happen, just that knowing that things can potentially happen is a trauma response, is being in trauma, in survival mode. So because of that, if the child has challenges of ADD, overstimulated, prefrontal cortex goes offline, the learning process isn't going to be there. As a child in a very safe environment, learning, has ADD, has medication on board, and can learn from from their environment. So remember, perceived threats, dangers, overstimulation of the body, of the limbic system, the central nervous system, will shut down the learning as well. So the child is not going to learn as much. It doesn't even have to be a child. Let's talk about a adult, right? So let's say you are an adult, you are in a work environment, you're at work, people aren't nice, you hate going to work, you're not doing, let's say a teacher. The teacher goes to school to become a teacher, but they go to school and it's all about testing. It's really not about teaching. And the child isn't, they're not doing the work that they went to school for. So they're just, I don't like this. This is not, so they're offline, right? The child isn't learning either. The teacher is not really there. They're not in survival mode, like there's a trauma, but there may be a, the teacher herself or himself, they're not in survival mode, but they're just waiting to just retire, So also an emotional and body memories, right? So we talked about how the body remembers, the hippocampus. That's where the body stores, or the brain stores, memories. So the amygdala is also responsible for the survival, feeling the survival threat. So even though you may not remember, or there's no recollection of the incident that happened, but you might have fragments of it. So there's the narrative isn't going to be linear. It's not going to be like, okay, this happened, then that's it. It might jump, okay? So, and then dates might jump, all of these things. So every time you're startled, right? So this is how the body, your brain remembers trauma. So every time you're startled, or you feel anxious, and you don't know why, that might be a trauma response. Your body is emotionally and physically remembering something, but you're cognitively can't remember. You can feel it, you can sense it, your body's responding to it, right? And you're like, what the fuck is happening? Because it's not here. It may be in your body. So it's somatic recall. And it's also, that's why there's a lot of research being done with the vagus nerve and the vagus healing, because it's the largest nerve in your body. So when you feel your jaw clenching, that could be a sense, that your body is remembering. And also not having the story that follows what your body is experiencing can be very confusing, destabilizing, and also it can also be you might feel like cray, like crazy a little bit. And I just want you to know, I just want to hopefully normalize your healing response and your healing process, and also normalize that when you are being exposed to trauma, whether someone is yelling at you, belittling you, devaluing you, not validating you, all of these things, all of that is trauma. Coercive control, that's all of that is trauma. And you're surviving all of that. So you may not remember what the person is telling you, mom, dad, house, spouse, or boss, or whoever it is, friendship, whatever. You may not remember what they're saying, like Maya Angelou says, but you remember how they made you feel. And that is, ask your intuition, did this really happen? Listen to your body. Your body is going to tell you, something happened. Your body's going to say something happened. I don't know what happened, but something happened. Ask your brain. Your brain is like, I don't know what the fuck happened. Ask your body. Your body knows. So it's a little weird that I just said that, but it's true. That's a communication that's happening between your mind, body, right? Don't forget the soul, because the soul comes in to help you heal. So you may not have the words, like I have looking at my notes. You may not have the words nor the pictures of the traumatic event, but you that can make you feel even more confused, because you sort of see it, but you really don't. And then, like I mentioned in the previous video, if you have to go to court for whatever reason, or retell the story for whatever reason, you may feel like you're making it up because you don't have the whole story, right? You're not gonna recognize it. The triggers, you may not recognize it. So if you look at your, if you're watching me and not listening to me, but the forehead, that's where the prefrontal cortex is, and that's where the thinking brain is. That's where the narrative of the story happened. And so this is not where the emotions are. The emotions are not in the prefrontal cortex. So you may have the memories, you may have the story, but you may not have the emotions attached to it, right? So I see this in therapy as well, in my practice, where someone is telling me the story, but they're telling the story without any affect, right? So the prefrontal cortex and the emotional part of the body is not talking, right? And that's okay. That's, trauma does that. And then in time, it all starts to tell the story together in unison, right? Wholeness. And that's what healing is about, is becoming whole with your mind, body, and your soul. And so the middle part, right? Like the middle part of your brain, that's where the brain remembers your memories in many different ways. So it can remember your memories in sensing, like senses, like the sounds, visuals, flashbacks, emotional flashbacks, because the flashbacks are not just pictures. You can have an emotional flashback where you could just sound and then the emotion comes up. It can be the other way. You can have a feeling and not realize, why am I feeling anxious? Totally okay. Everything seems fine, but the body is responding in some way. And instead of being angry or getting angry at yourself for the body responding and not knowing, let it respond. Just put your hand in your heart and say, listen, girlfriend, I got you. Talk to your little girl. We all have an inner child. And, I can't take care of you right now. I'm at work. But when I get home, we're going to go for a walk. You can talk to your little girl that way. That creates healing. Okay? And so in your physical body as well, your movements, when you jolt, when you quiver, all of these triggers, when you don't have anything to place these emotional responses to, when there's nothing that, oh yeah, I'm quivering because it's cold outside, of course I'm going to quiver. No, when there is nothing that you can say, okay, I'm quivering because blah, 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 and you don't have the blah, 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 then that might be a traumatic response of whatever, and let it happen. Just emotions come and emotions will go. Okay? It's just let it come in and, bienvenido seas, welcome it, y, vaya con Dios, right? Go with God. So, and then your brainstem, which is back here, which is where your amygdala is, that's where it's like your survival center. With your heart rate's going to go up, your pupils are going to dilate, your breathing is going to get faster and deeper. So just know that, as we remember trauma isn't remembered the same way that happy events are remembered. So like if you're going to go to a wedding, or you go to a birthday party, or you go to a concert, when you're remembering your concert, you may not remember the concert from beginning to end, but the body and your mind is going to remember that concert of the most amazing time that you've had. It's not going to remember it the same that it remembers a sexual assault or a car accident or surviving, a really catastrophic event. Your body's not, it remembers these two things very differently. Unfortunately, people think that we remember the same. And so, I remember. Well, why come that person doesn't? Shut the fuck up. Like, people that are, trauma is very tricky. And trauma we are like in the beginnings of researching this trauma stuff. Somatic sensing, vagus nerve. All of these things that are coming out right now. It's been around for a while. We've always had a vagus nerve, right? It's not like, oh my God, we just got one. No, it's always been there. And it's always, what we've always done is we've always taken our hands and loved ourselves. That has been innate for millions and millions of years since humankind. We're constantly, massaging ourselves or rubbing ourselves. We know, our bodies know how to heal. So let's let our bodies heal. Let's let our bodies lead us in the healing process. It will never stray you wrong. Your body will always stray you where you need to be. So one of the things is take out your little notebook and your pen and find out, these are prompts for you. These are like things that you can check. So for your healing process, you can add this, take this to your therapist if you want to. So are you shaking? Like when you go into meditation, like when you're calm, the body will respond when it's in a calm state, when it feels safe. If your body doesn't feel safe to feel, it's not going to feel. It's going to hold on to all of that energy and wait until it's safe enough to let go. Okay? So when you're in meditation, are you shaking? Are you nervous? Are you getting anxious? Also, like in your day-to-day, do you sometimes feel like you want to collapse? That's a sign that you might be perceiving in your, trauma, or you might be perceiving some sort of danger, or you are in danger. You are in survival mode. If you feel like your feet won't move, that is one of the strangest feelings. I've felt that before. Your breathing gets deeper, your breathing gets faster. And also some people have said that they feel like they're possessed. They don't feel the same. Suicidal thoughts, addictions, all of these are ways that your body remembers the trauma. Self-harm, a lot of people run, like they run all the time, and they run. And some of them, it's not because, I'm not saying that all runners have suffered trauma, but a lot of runners do have suffered trauma and that is how they let it go. And if they stop, they just don't feel comfortable with just walking. It's just like they have to do the running, clenching of the teeth. This is how trauma sometimes comes out, like you clench. Self-hatred, hatred for others. This is this fawning response, this sense of needing to please other people and always doing, overdoing for other people. That is a fawn response. That that expression comes from a place where it wasn't safe to be authentic, and you want to be liked really bad, because if you're liked, then you're safe. And that's where authenticity lies, right? If you feel that you can't be yourself and you have to be this persona so that the other person can like you, that is a fawn response, and that is one of the, the fight or flight or fawn or freeze response. Also, another way that trauma can present itself, remember, is an over exaggerated response to a stimuli that doesn't require an overstimulated response. Like, I'll share, like the door, right? Like sometimes when I walk out of the garage and you open and you can't see who the other person, my scream is beyond, right? Beyond, like, oh my God. So it's, I laugh and the other person gets scared too, because I just fucking screamed. But sometimes they scream too, but their scream is lower than mine. And so as I open the door and it's like, oh my God, you get startled. Some people just get startled. Some people scream. Some people's like, oh, it all depends. Sometimes my response is really over the top. And that's okay. I don't care. If I scream, I don't care. If the other person screams, I don't care either. If we get scared, there's this one guy that is my neighbor, and we've done this to each other several times, and it's just a freaking joke now because we both scream now. Because I don't know if he's scaring me or I'm scaring him, but whatever it is, it's a response, right? It's a natural response. You open the door, you're not expecting somebody to be standing there, and you're like, you get scared, so fuck it. It is what it is. So that is also the action to an overwhelming, an exaggerated response to that. Another way is an exaggerated emotion, like somebody tells you a story and you're sobbing. And you're like, why in the world am I sobbing for this little tiny, you know what I mean? So it's a perception. Or you're laughing. There's something, I've seen plenty of people that laugh in the midst of a disaster because it's what the body is doing at that moment. And once again, I've gone over my 20-minute mark. I hope you've made it this far. I hope this video and podcast has been useful to you and that you've been able to use this with your healing journey and your healing process. So have a beautiful weekend, and I'll see you next week. And if I don't see you next week, I'll see you the week after, because I am living my life, and I hope that you're living your life too. Many blessings to you, and take good care. See you soon. Bye-bye.